Hi, my name is Taketo. I'm teaching beginner submission grappling Mondays and Wednesdays, 8:30 to 9:30 here at the Star Martial Arts Gator Grappling.
My name is Stephen Wilkie. I teach the advanced classes at Star Martial Arts in Thornbrook Village from 8:30 to whenever on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Saturdays it's 10 a.m. and Fridays it's 5:30 p.m. We're going to go over some beginner level techniques. We want to put some emphasis on closed guards because they're easier for beginners to use. First closed guard that I really want people to understand is grandfather guard. Grandfather guard is a closed circuit guard. Every time I say the word closed guard, that means my ankles are toggled behind my opponent. If I've got my opponent down on the ground, you're going to see three different modifications of closed guard from this position. This is called grandfather guard. My legs are toggled back by the lumbar section. I have some submission options, but basically I've got really powerful control of my opponent. If my opponent changes his elevation or tries to get his knee in, I'm going to change my elevation of my hips. So my hips come up, so they're up fairly high on him, so I pull myself in. Kato's not going to make any giant mistakes. His hands won't be on the mat. These are called trigger positions, where I'm going to look for submissions. If they do, I'm going to easily transition to another position. One of the things I may transition to is another closed circuit guard. If I go up higher, this is up on the scapula. My gastrocnemiuses are pressed against the scapula, and this is called climbing guard. I can modify it a little bit higher. This is called cricket guard or spider web guard. Again, I'm almost already into a submission. This is called an arm bar. In this position, I have a double arm bar. If my opponent is able to pass partially through one of my guards, and he does it sloppily, it doesn't matter, he just gets a knee over. Gets one knee over, I'll start getting, this is called drunken guard. Doesn't really count, but once I get a closed circuit around my opponent, this is another modification of a closed guard. This is called the lockdown. I've locked down my opponent. If my opponent is afraid of me and starts running away, I'm going to modify it again. This is called the grapevine. The hook is now on the outside of my opponent. I can press him, take his back, work for submissions. So there we have several guards. We have closed guards that are relatively straightforward. Other kind of closed guards would be rubber guard. Rubber guard on my opponent would be to drive him down further. And that's a modification of spiderweb guard. I'm up on my opponent, now I pull him down and tighter, break his glasses. So I'm really high up on my opponent. And I can modify this any way I want to. Well, something I need to be cognitive of is that as my foot starts to lunge forward, he might lunge forward. So I'm going to keep my elbow here on the outside of my knee, so if he lunges forward, I'm using my hips to control my opponent, not my shin. And that's a classic problem that I have with beginners. Another closed guard that has a lot of merit is could be called inverted guard. I'm going to let Kato set this one up. What's going to happen is, I'll hear how he gets to it. It'll usually X me, I'll slip over and catch me in this position. This is another closed circuit guard, or Kato's button face guard. It's not a place I like to be. Another way to set this up is on the X guard is abdomen. So I'm going to lock, drop, and then I walk inside the area. So I've got lots of ways I can immediately go to that closed guard. Another one that's really important is a closed guard we use when someone's trying to pound my face in. I'm not well liked, so frequently people come in here and try to bash my face in. So if this happens, we call this valetudo guard. My opponent's trying to bash my face in, I'll block a circuit around his body. I can figure four fairly tightly and I'm going to press him off. Almost like a karate chop or a figure four in his arm. So this is a very powerful guard as well. And it's a nice close circuit guard. So this is probably these are the guards I really need you to know when you start Kato's class. Being able to control somebody so they can't harm you is very important. Being able to hold a closed circuit guard is understandable when you're a beginner. You may hear people complain about you stalling. That just isn't true. If they can't get out of your closed guard, they've got a problem. And they need to work ways past it. We'll cover that in later videos. Cut.